Hello, and welcome to Servitization Shorts, discussions, and all things as a service. I'm your host, Patrick McGowan, CEO and founder of the Service Design Group, and I'm joined today by Scott Broaddus. Scott, why don't you kick things off, give us a bit of background about you and this as a service business model you've been building and taking to market over the past few years.
Yeah, sounds good, man. And thanks, Patrick, for having me. Just to introduce myself, my name's Scott Broaddus. I'm currently the sales and business lead for what we're doing at Bayer for digital pest management, which if you tell me, 14, 15 years ago when I started with Bayer, we would be refining digital solutions and services for the pest management industry. I probably would have told you were crazy, right? But that's the path and journey we started down probably about 4 years ago. We developed a kind of a corporate startup and really started exploring kind of the future problems and issues for our customers. And our first go-to-market service solution is around automating remote monitoring for rodents in high-risk commercial establishments. So think food production, think hospitals, think areas where the presence of a rodent threshold zero, right? And so to be proactive and preventative in those environments is really critical. And so super excited about what we're doing and to share with you and the folks listening about what we're doing.
Great. Awesome. Well, excited to dive in here. You mentioned when you started in this industry, if someone had told you this is where it was going, you would have said you're crazy. So inevitably, that to me, that's the disruption topic that everyone's so fascinated with this stuff, and disruption's clearly always a part of these stories. What intrigues me with you and the team at Bayer is what I would call a dual disruption story. So there's an option here to transform the face of commercial pest control as we know it. And that's what everyone, disruption, that's good. But if I really think about it, I'm like, okay, isn't there a case that this disrupts Bayer's current business, which is selling chemicals and other things, and also a disruption of the current customer, which is we put people in trucks and vans and we send them to check traps. So unpack that a little bit. What does disruption mean here? Is it the super awesome version of disruption that everyone likes to read about, or is there something deeper that we need to understand?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. So let's unpack it, kind of how you laid it out, which is it disruptive to our current business? I wouldn't say it's necessarily disruptive to our current business. Now it's disruptive perhaps to, I think, some of the traditional processes in which we usually go about in regards to product development and how we bill and service customers. But we try and find synergy, right, between our traditional kind of core portfolio and kind of finding synergy with the digital technologies that we're bringing to market. And that's, I think, really important and something to learn as you go to market and you consider your strategy on how you complement those two parts of your business. Now, when we talk about disruptive to the industry, absolutely, man. And honestly, although we designed this and worked with customers on starting with remote monitoring for rodents, I'm not sure until they actually started to apply and realized that they had to apply service model innovation to their business to make it successful. They really didn't know how, and we didn't really know how disruptive it really was, because you're 100% right. In really mature markets that are driven off generate revenue through labor. And in the pest control industry, labor is a really key driver for revenue. When you displace human capital with technology, you're like, what do I do? Because our customers are then impacted and affected through their routing, how they service the customer. And what we've realized is, it's important for our customers to then bring really cross-functional teams together to make it work, meaning marketing, sales, IT, operations, to really put structure to a marketing and sales program that they could implement for their customers. And that is much different than what they're accustomed to working with us on, right? Because we usually focus on features, benefits of chemistry, formulation, and addressing a specific pest issue. Now we're fundamentally changing how they service. And so in that sense, it's been, I think, a lot more disruptive than perhaps we had envisioned.
Okay. And this is really interesting because the Bayer setup here is fundamentally a channels play, or what I would call channels, a kind of a distributor. Bayer manufactures, develops, does the R&D, manufactures and distributes. Your customer is some type of intermediary that then serves their end customer. Yeah, so in the past, they didn't really have to resell in any sense Bayer technology. They just showed up and provided their pest control service, and they used Bayer technology to fulfill it. But now you need them to essentially get really good at selling a remote monitoring solution to their customers.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. It sounds obvious in hindsight, but not so obvious
Exactly.
when you get started.
Yeah, these are just things you learn, right? And this is where we've had to, build some competencies and, change our approach in regards to the journey we take those customers through to be comfortable to adopt and implement and be successful, right? So been a lot of learnings there for sure.
Yeah. Since we're talking about channel, one thing I always say in this servitization as a service work, if you don't have some friction in your channel, you're probably not pushing far enough or looking at it right. But is there any other notion of channel disruption where, to some degree, you mentioned these, you had a great phrase for it, but basically these facilities or brands where it's like zero rodent tolerance, right? If there's a rodent there, it's bad. Is there an ability where then they're looking backwards and saying, well, what's the solution we need? Is it traditional pest control, or might we just go straight to some other source? And that would also be interesting, but challenging for all these reasons we've discussed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, part of what we've had to do, given kind of the disruptive impact this can have on businesses, is kind of painting a picture of where the value can be derived, not only for service providers, but for end clients as well, right? To show kind of the end-to-end value that can be delivered, but also derived through digital technology and new services. So you're absolutely right on that.
Okay. Yeah. The kind of logical extension to me here is, how did you all get on this path? So for someone who, I live and breathe this servitization as a service stuff, but I'm always intrigued of what really started this, at the company level, the business unit, the team, the individual level. Was this a top-down strategy? Someone had a big old market analysis and, there's all these dollars we can go get. Was it an individual had an idea? To talk us through, because you ran straight into these interesting things that then had to be figured out. So what put you on the start of this journey?
Yeah, we just for the viewers, just to bring awareness, we went to market with the turnkey device as a service offering. And there was a few reasons we did that, but to be honest with you, it really came down to what was going to enable us to balance the needs of our customers, right? So a big part of that is balancing the economics of supporting adoption of new technology in a new space. And we knew, I think deep down, given the novelty of this technology in a really mature market like pest control, for example, we knew customers would really struggle with investing a lot of capital in technology they didn't know would work or not, right? So we wanted to take a path of least resistance. meaning how can we offer a service and a solution supported by, I think, a really high impact platform that was easy to adopt, easy to scale out of the gate. And I think the device as a service, bundling everything into a turnkey monthly subscription, enabled us to get there. I would say what's more exciting, or what we've had to continue to do, is continue to evaluate evolving business models, which cater to the needs of those early adopters and innovators that are now in a position to where they understand the return on investment, they understand the ability to invest, amortize, technology over contract periods, for example. They really up their ROI, and they can implement at much faster scale and have more freedom to operate and all these things. And so I think that service out of the gate was a really great decision for us, especially for those early adopters. But I would say moving forward, it's important for any organization to really think about how you evolve that business model to address the evolving needs of your customers. And that's what we're really trying our best to do.
Okay. Yeah. So you can't carve it in stone and say this is the answer, inside the four walls, and then go to market and be unyielding. You just like all the startup literature tells us, pivot, 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 and you all are doing that just inside a giant multinational company.
Exactly.
Yeah. Along those lines, a big part of services, service innovation, servitization, inevitably there's kind of an ecosystems and partner story, and you mentioned a few times kind of the turnkey service, technology platform, really building that out. There's always this debate around what do you build, what do you buy, what do you partner for, and then who do you partner with when you say, yeah, let's take a partner route? Talk us through that a bit. What's the ecosystem and partner landscape look like for this rodent monitoring and digital pest at Bayer?
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is really how we wanted to approach our initial kind of design phase and rapid prototyping, right? Which is let's find the best devices, the best sensors, the best monitors. Find a business model works, delivers our customers' needs, and find success that way. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a device that addressed all of our customer needs, and so that in and of itself resulted in us doing a lot of outreach, finding third-party designers, manufacturers that could support us in the development of finding a solution to fit the market need. So absolutely, man, we don't want to be the makers of widgets. We really don't. We built our platform to be device agnostic. And so when you take that approach, you really have to just continuously do technology scouting, right? What technologies are up and coming that can address customer needs, that fit your vision and mission, and kind of fit on to building value into your platform. And those parties range from, again, technology designers, third-party manufacturers that also are making electronic components for iPhones and different things like this, right? So that ecosystem and those partners looks much different than our traditional business as well. And I think it's worked out well for us. So
yeah. How about on the platform side? I'm curious about, because, companies at the size and scale of Bayer, we've seen this increased trend of, you've got usually a lot of emphasis around some digital transformation. Usually it's at the corporate HQ level, right? And it's somewhere between IT and true digital transformation, but did you have to go to them on the kind of digital platform side, or were you able to go outside and partner there as well?
No, you know what? We built those competencies internally. So we did build our platform, which really allows us the ability to continue to develop it, right, over time. So we have IT and business service support internally, but also developers. that are supporting it through third parties, right? So yeah, we kind of a hybrid approach there as well.
Okay, best of both worlds. You got to keep that nexus of control, like you mentioned, but adopt some standard based best of breed stuff so you can get that surge capacity outside of there as needed. Smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that takes us into, you know, the next bit here for me is let's talk a bit about team structure. So you've already established the team is more than just Bear. So we don't need to revisit that, but I'd like to hear more. You mentioned at the beginning, you know, the way you all stood this up inside of Bear is kind of like a incubator labs, new ventures model. I'd like to hear more about that. And then, you know, you're in a sales role, you know, so in my experience, a lot of time we don't see this type of work driven really from sales. So I'm curious, just unpack that a little bit too. You know, was it in tandem with marketing and R&D? Who were the players on the Bear team, you know, from kind of concept phase through to launch and continued go to market?
Yeah, so I really think this was one of our strengths, right? We did kind of create this kind of incubation bed that was made up of, I think, a really sound cross-functional team, right? So bring in IT lead, hardware design, product development lead, business development lead, marketing. You bring these things together, and it wasn't really a top down, but it was kind of more of a horizontal cross-functional team organizational structure to where we all had kind of equal responsibilities and move in the same direction. And so you bring hardware ideas, especially in a new space, and you know, you can't refine that technology without that cohesiveness from a business development perspective, who then has the proximity to the customer. Right. And so to leverages, you know, those experience and expertise, relationship and partnerships in the market, I think is what worked really, really well for us. In addition, we did have and report up through a venture advisory board. That venture advisory board was made up of individuals, consultants that also had their areas of expertise. Right, so experience in bringing new innovation, experience in bringing services, and then of course, you know, leadership within the organization to help kind of guide our directive as to funding and stuff like that as well. So I think our approach worked really well in the sense that we didn't have that top-down management push, but we worked cohesively as a business unit. To bring innovation, to go to market, and we were all part of those discussions. Like everyone had a voice, and I think that was super relevant to, I think, the approach that we took and some of the success that we're having.
Yeah, it's rather unique, at least in my experience. But it's you kind of bypass some of those unnecessary friction points where it's like, oh, hey, sales team, we built this thing, now go sell it. And they're like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, probably not super easy to pull off, but the structure you mentioned is it's a good one. I'm a fan.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, especially for corporations that are going down this route of looking at new innovation, new services, you know, really, you know, Bear's been around for 155 years, you know, something like that. So, you know, very process driven, right? And when you have these labor intensive processes and channels that you have to normally go through for traditional product innovation, it doesn't allow you to move as fast as you really need to. And that's the other thing we really needed is when you bring new innovation, you have to move a lot faster, right? And you can't hit these roadblocks where you're waiting for, you know, approvals and things like that through traditional processes. And that really helped us. You know, speed to market is super important, right? So that helped us get there.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll go a little deeper, a little more under the hood here. You and I both know this as a service innovations, taking something new to market. It's definitely not all happy path. There's plenty of challenges, obstacles, hurdles. You've mentioned a few along the way. Why don't you pick maybe the biggest one that you're able to share with the audience, and tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, when you're building, here's what I would say, and I really think it's expectation setting, level setting for organizations when you're literally creating a market, right? I think the expectation when you launch a traditional product is, you can go out and you can sell a truckload of product and, you deliver a bunch of cash right away, right, to the business. And it just, but then it levels off, right? It kind of levels off. And as opposed to a recurring revenue business that you're starting from the ground up, it can take time, right? It can take time to build that business up, to scale it, to learn, to your point earlier, pivot, make adjustments that you need with new technology in a new space that's really mature, and really build it up. And I think setting that expectation for an organization is super important, and something we've certainly lived through and gone through.
Yeah, you just touched on an item that's near and dear to me, which is this notion of, I call it metrics, not to oversimplify it, but yeah, this, an organization that's operated on a transactional product selling basis. It knows all of its metrics, and it's your traditional financial metrics. And then it's really hard to say, put that aside and look at this notion of a future recurring cash flow, right? And I mean, it's amazing to me. It sounds like you ran into this brick wall head on, that sometimes the fluency that you'd expect on the finance side or the accounting side, it just isn't there. And it's no fault of their own. But I mean, in my experience, I'm curious if this was true at Bayer. I've even seen it to the point where the business systems don't really know how to look at notions of a subscription business. Like there's bookings, there's a backlog of revenue, there's monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, all these things that if you or I started an as a service business on our own, that's just what the system would be tuned to. But when you're at Bayer, it's tuned a different way. And it's really hard for sometimes people to see, oh, those metrics, maybe they don't apply. But that's how we've always made investment decisions. So sounds like you hit this one head on.
Yeah, for sure. Support systems, 100%. How you look at the numbers, how they're visualized, how they're reported, how you look at them and present them is totally different than kind of a traditional title transfer business. And then to your point, there's other benchmarks that you're starting to measure that you traditionally don't in businesses, right? Which is, well, what's the user experience like, right? Are you measuring the customer's experience? And so we've done some, I'd say, modified NPS, right, where you want to survey and ask your customers how the install experience was to ensure you're delivering on a good customer experience, so they come back to repurchase. So you start to measure repurchase rates, and you start to measure retention. Retention is a big one. Month over month retention is super critical if you're building up a recurring revenue type business. So these are all really important things, absolutely, that perhaps some traditional organizations or startups, would want to put key KPIs and benchmarks to.
Yeah. So along these lines, you've already shared quite a bit here that people could infer. But if we put on the hat of, Scott, current Scott could go back to past Scott and say, hey, you're starting this as a service offering, you're going to build and take to market. Here's something you should really know before going down that path. What might that be? And, maybe that helps someone that's considering going down this journey today.
Yeah, it really, to me, it stems back to how we teed the conversation up, your very first question, which was around, how disruptive is what you're really bringing to market. And I think if I could flash backwards and really understand how disruptive technology can be to our customer services. We continue to think outside the box of different ways to make it as easy to adopt as possible, right? To where they didn't feel the industry or customers didn't feel like it was, jeopardizing their business, but creating business opportunities, right? And I think, yeah, that's absolutely, man. That's what I would say there.
Okay, keeping you in a similar headspace, what do you see ahead? I'm assuming not everything's been solved, right? It's not all happy path from this point forward. What's a challenge you see that here and now that you're able to share that you're really looking at? I've got to figure out how to take this one out to move forward.
Yeah, man. The big item right now is integrating our kind of the data from our system and platform into our customers' primary software and routing platforms. Super important. It's a big pain point that we've realized. Maybe something that wasn't highlighted enough in the de-risking, right? In the de-risking phase of bringing this to market, but super important for customers, clients want to work off a single platform, and to integrate our data flow of information from our system to our customers' existing software and routing platforms is really a important objective for us this year, and I think this will continue to be one as we work with new customers with various other softwares. Thankfully, we've done that foundational work, right? We've developed open API, we're ready, supported, we have the team to do it. It's a matter of implementation. So that's a big focus for us right now and something that's super important. And I think other folks bring in new platforms to other industries where their customers have really robust software platforms. They want to work off one platform. So make sure you're ready to support that.
Yeah, we've seen this industry to industry too. It's a great reminder of the service design principle here is your service always exists in a context of use that's bigger than you, and there's a before, during, and after that your service slots into. Makes sense conceptually, but I like the kind of rubric you've just given us here, which is plan for that up front. You can't build that whole thing up front. So then go major in something and then really start looking at those integration points or those touch points that matter over time.
Yeah, and this goes back to really one of the key value propositions of remote monitoring in general is around operational efficiencies and quality and time, right? And so you partially meet that. You meet a lot of it through the remote monitoring tool itself. But then when you have clients working off multiple platforms, it can be a little bit of a pain point, right? In terms of efficiencies and, controlling everything in one space. And so we'll deliver on that for sure. But it's a big focus for us.
Okay. And looking beyond that, what's next? Is that the here and now, or is there also we got to expand to other geographies? We have to expand to other pest segments, or is it laser focus on keep building and scaling this one offering? Or are you starting to have to juggle other geographies, other segments at this time?
Yeah, you can probably look at this through a couple different lenses, right? So yes, of course, we continue to stay focused on our mission, right, which is making this service successful. With the notion or asterisk that it is, we did design our platform to support an ecosystem of devices. So we want to bring on crawling insects, flying insects, and other monitoring tools. But it's important. Our customers ask us this all the time, what's next? I'm like, hey, man, if you want to see what's next, get on board now, right? Because we need to make what we have today successful so we can invest in future innovations, bottom line, right? So everybody wants the whole kit and caboodle, but you won't be ready for those other technologies and other tools and services if you can't make what we have today successful, bottom line, right? And so invest with us now so we can invest together in the future. That's my challenge, right? To not always the easiest discussion to have, but I think it's important. Through the other lens there, Patrick, yes, I think the success we've had and how this technology and this service resonates with us in the U.S. Has certainly called attention in other countries, right? So we've expanded some work being done in the UK, in the UAE, and we have some other parts of our global organization seeing if there's value to be derived for their customers as well. So we're excited that we're hopefully leading that path and sharing those best practices as our colleagues in other parts of the world bring this type of technology to market.
Okay. Yeah, it's really cool stuff, Scott. So as we're looking to start wrapping up here, one thing with these discussions is sometimes we do focus a lot on kind of the business aspects, all that stuff. I always like to ask, if we strip all that away and just say, Scott, the individual, like what's the thing that really excites you about this as a service innovation you participated in building and taking to market? What's the most exciting thing to you just personally?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, I've been in the industry for, like I said in my intro, going on 15 years, and I'm excited to change the face of what this really old school kind of industry looks like, right? So to change the face of pest control to this more modern day, cutting edge, innovative service, to me is super exciting, right? And it does segue a little bit, Patrick, into some business challenges that we and our customers, I think, oftentimes face, which is, they're looking to recruit employee recruitment and retention is a really big challenge in this industry as well as others. And I think as you innovate and modernize what your business looks like through the use of cutting edge technology, it allows you to recruit a different type of customer, a different type of employee. And so that's what I'm really excited about, man. It's really change and transform in the face of the pest control industry.
Yeah, true transformation through as a service business models and innovations. That's cool stuff. That's cool stuff. Anything else you were hoping we touch on, or you'd be asked that we haven't?
No, man, I think we've hit a lot of it on the head there. I think for me, maybe if you were to go back and maybe ask what I've experienced or witnessed to be the most successful approach from our customers would be, something that I'd like to share, because I think people underestimate or undervalue the importance of being first movers in service industries, right? And a lot of people kind of sit back on their heel. They watch what others are doing, kind of try to learn from others' mistakes, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But I think if you do that, you wait too long, you really miss the boat. I think there's a lot of value in learning through experimentation and failing and making adjustments that tee you up for success in the long run. I've seen too many customers hold out and not invest early. And this is part of something we worked on with y'all, but customers going through that learn, transform, and win kind of phase. If you remember, we tagline that process. A lot of customers just aren't willing to learn. And I think if you wait to do that, you lose at the end of the day. You're going to be playing catch up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Scott, this has been awesome. Lots of insights here, knowledge sharing, perspectives. This is the real deal about what does as a service innovation, business model transformation look like inside the four walls of a massive multinational, with an existing healthy business, but also that's known and recognized for innovation, and is continuing to push the boundaries there. So really appreciate you jumping in here today, taking part in this discussion with me, and just looking forward to what happens next, checking out this next phase of integration you mentioned, and then also expansion into other pest problems, other platforms, and just see where this takes you and the team at Bayer. It's going to be fun to watch.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it. Appreciate you guys, and appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.